For 300 years, humans had been the backbone of the Galactic Council. It happened quietly at first. A human ship arriving with supplies after a disaster. A human doctor healing an alien child. A human engineer fixing a broken system that no one else understood. Then it became normal. When two species argued over a border, humans mediated. When a world faced famine, humans sent food. When a colony was struck by natural disaster, humans arrived first with medicine and blankets. They asked for nothing in return. Other species appreciated this. They said thank you. They sent polite messages. They voted in favor of human proposals. But slowly, without realizing it, they began to take humans for granted. The human ships would always come. The human doctors would always heal. The human engineers would always fix things. It was simply how the galaxy worked. Ambassador Sarah Chen had served on the council for 20 years. She had seen it happen. She had warned her government. They do not see us anymore, she told them once. We are like furniture to them. Always there. Always useful. Never truly seen. Her government listened. They understood. But they did nothing. Helping was what humans did. It was who they were. Then the plague came. It started in the KRYLL Empire. A small outbreak on a mining colony. Nothing serious, at first. Then it spread. Within months, dozens of worlds were affected. Thousands were sick. Then millions. The KRYLL medical system, never the strongest, began to collapse. The KRYLL representative came to the council in desperation. We need help, he said. Our hospitals are overflowing. Our doctors are falling sick. People are dying. The council listened. They expressed concern. They promised to help. Then the arguments began. Sarah Chen sat in her seat, watching the debate unfold. A Vorthan councillor spoke. We must send medical supplies immediately. This is a crisis. A Xylos councillor shook his head. We need to verify the numbers first. Ensure the requests are accurate. People are dying while you verify. Protocol exists for a reason. We cannot simply send resources without proper documentation. The debate continued for hours, then days, then weeks. Sarah raised her hand to speak. Humans are ready to help, she said quietly. We have medical teams standing by. Supplies loaded. Ships fueled. We just need council approval to coordinate with other species. A KRYLL councillor nodded gratefully. Thank you, Ambassador. We accept. But another councillor spoke. Approval cannot be rushed. There are forms to complete. Agreements to sign. Liability issues to consider. Sarah stared at him. Liability? People are dying. I understand that, but we cannot bypass procedure. It sets a bad precedent. The debate continued. While the council argued, the plague worsened. KRYLL colonies fell one by one. Hospitals ran out of beds. Medicine ran out. Doctors worked until they collapsed, then joined the sick themselves. Human ships waited at the border, loaded with supplies, unable to enter without approval. Sarah sent message after message to the council. Please, approve the mission. We can save thousands. The responses were always the same. Under review. Pending documentation. Waiting for committee approval. She watched the death toll rise on her screen. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. And still the council argued. At night, in her quarters, Sarah spoke with Earth. We cannot wait any longer, she told her government. People are dying. Send the ships, came the reply. We will deal with the consequences later. Sarah shook her head. If we defy the council, we lose our standing, our influence, everything we built. Then what do you suggest? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. I suggest we remember who we are, she said finally, and ask ourselves why we are still here. The connection ended. Sarah sat alone, staring at the stars. On her screen, the death toll climbed higher. And somewhere, in the back of her mind, a thought began to form. Perhaps it was time for humans to stop being furniture. Perhaps it was time to let the galaxy see what life was like without them. The council chamber was full. Representatives from a dozen species sat around the massive circular table. Screens displayed data from the KRYLL plague. Death tolls. Infection rates. Projections. Sarah Chen stood before them. She had prepared her words carefully. Thank you for allowing me to speak, she began. As you know, human medical teams have been working in KRYLL space for 3 months. We have saved thousands of lives. But we are reaching our limits. She clicked a button. A holographic display appeared, showing human resources. Our medical personnel are exhausted. Our supplies are running low. Our ships are stretched thin across dozens of worlds. She looked at the counselors. We need help. We need other species to step up. Send medical teams. Send supplies. Share the burden. Silence. Then a Vorthan counselor spoke. Your people are already helping. What more do you want? Sarah kept her voice calm. I want partnership. I want other species to contribute. Humans cannot do this alone. A Xylos counselor frowned. You have always managed before. Why is this different? Because this plague is larger than anything we have faced. Because our resources are not infinite. Because we are asking for help, not giving orders. The KRYLL counselor, the same one who had begged for aid months ago, spoke dismissively. Humans always exaggerate. You will manage. You always do. Sarah stared at him. With respect, counselor, your people are dying. I am trying to save them. He waved a hand. And we appreciate that. But additional resources require approval. Documentation. Debate. We cannot simply give you whatever you ask. Another counselor nodded. Protocol exists for a reason. Sarah took a breath. Protocol is killing people. Every day you delay, more KRYLL die. The room went quiet. Then the vote was called. All in favor of providing additional resources to the human relief effort. A few hands went up. Too few. Opposed. More hands. The measure failed. Sarah stood motionless. Her face revealed nothing. The council moved on to the next item. She returned to her quarters and sat in silence for a long time. Then she contacted Earth. The connection was secure. On her screen appeared the faces of the Planetary Council, the leaders of humanity. Ambassador Chen, the Secretary-General said. Report. Sarah spoke calmly. The Council has voted against additional resources. They expect us to continue alone. A general frowned. They refused, while their own people die. They believe we will manage. We always have. Silence. Another leader spoke. What do you recommend, Ambassador? Sarah was quiet for a moment. I recommend we stop. Stop what? Stop helping. Stop mediating. Stop supplying. Stop being the backbone of a galaxy that takes us for granted. The room stirred. You are suggesting we withdraw from Council affairs. I am suggesting we let them see what life is like without us. Not in anger. Not in revenge. Simply, step back. Let them face the consequences of their choices. The Secretary-General leaned forward. And the KRYLL? The plague victims? Sarah's voice was steady. We have done everything we could. More than any other species. If the Council will not support us, we cannot support them. Long silence. Then, slowly, heads nodded. The decision is made, the Secretary-General said. Humanity will withdraw. Quietly. Peacefully. Let the galaxy remember what we gave them. Sarah bowed her head. The withdrawal began immediately. Human ships stopped arriving at disaster zones. Human doctors stopped traveling to plague worlds. Human engineers stopped answering distress calls. Human mediators stopped showing up to disputes. At first, no one noticed. The Council continued its meetings. Other species continued their debates. The plague continued its spread. But slowly, things began to change. A shipment of supplies did not arrive. A medical team did not appear. A dispute escalated into a small war because no one was there to mediate. The KRYLL plague worsened. Hospitals that depended on human medicine ran out. Doctors that trained under humans struggled alone. Colonies that relied on human aid began to fall. Messages started arriving at Earth. Where are your ships? We need your doctors. Please respond. Earth did not respond. Sarah watched from her office on Earth. Screens showed the chaos spreading across the galaxy. An assistant entered quietly. Ambassador, the Council is requesting an emergency session. They want you to attend. Sarah shook her head. Tell them I am unavailable. They are desperate. The plague is out of control. Wars are breaking out. Trade is collapsing. Sarah looked at the screens. At the suffering. At the consequences of the Council's choices. I know, she said quietly. Will we help them? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Eventually, she said. When they understand. When they remember. When they are ready to see us as partners, not furniture. She turned from the screens. But not yet. The galaxy burned, and humanity watched in silence. The withdrawal happened so quietly that at first, no one noticed. Human ships that usually carried supplies to disaster zones simply did not launch. Human doctors who regularly traveled to plague worlds stayed home. Human engineers who answered distress calls let them ring unanswered. Human mediators who kept the peace between arguing species stopped showing up. It was not announced. There was no dramatic farewell. Humans simply stopped. The Galactic Council continued its meetings. Representatives argued about trade agreements and border disputes. They debated resource allocation and protocol. They delayed decisions and formed committees. Life went on. For a while. Then the plague worsened. KRYLL colonies that had depended on human medicine began to run out. Hospitals that received regular shipments of supplies found their shelves empty. Doctors trained by humans struggled to cope alone. The death rate climbed. At first, it was a few hundred, then a few thousand, then tens of thousands. The KRYLL counselor, the same one who had dismissed Sarah's request, stood before the council in desperation. "We need help," he said. "Our people are dying. The human medical teams have stopped coming. Their supplies have stopped arriving. We have nothing." A Vorthan counselor frowned. "Have you contacted them?" "Many times. They do not respond." "Then contact other species. We will help." The KRYLL counselor nodded gratefully. "Thank you. We accept anything you can send." Other species tried. Vorthan ships carried medical supplies to KRYLL worlds. Xylo's doctors traveled to treat the sick. But it was not enough. Vorthan medicine was different from human medicine. It worked for Vorthans, but KRYLL bodies reacted differently. Xylo's doctors were brilliant strategists, but they lacked the practical experience of human physicians. Supplies ran out quickly. Coordination broke down. Relief efforts collapsed into chaos. The KRYLL counselor returned to the council again and again. "It is not working," he said. "The medicine does not help. The doctors do not understand our biology. Nothing is organized." A Xylo's counselor shook his head. "We are doing our best. Humans had centuries of experience. We cannot match that overnight." "Then find the humans. Make them come back." No one knew how. Weeks passed. The plague spread. KRYLL colonies fell one by one. Entire worlds went silent. Ships arrived to find only bodies. Other species began to feel the effects. Trade stopped. Economies crumbled. Refugees fled in all directions, carrying the plague with them. Vorthan worlds reported the first cases. Then Xylos. Then others. Panic spread faster than the disease. The council met in emergency session every day now. But without human mediators, every meeting became a fight. Representatives shouted at each other. Accusations flew. No one could agree on anything. A Vorthan counselor stood and pointed at the KRYLL. "This is your fault. You brought this plague upon us." The KRYLL counselor shouted back. "We asked for help. You delayed. You argued about paperwork while we died." A Xylos counselor tried to calm them. "Fighting will not solve anything. We need to work together." "Together," another laughed bitterly. "We cannot agree on anything. Without the humans, we are nothing." The words hung in the air. Without the humans, we are nothing. On Earth, Sarah Chen watched the reports. Screens showed the chaos, the suffering, the collapse. Her assistant stood beside her. "Ambassador, maybe it is time." Sarah shook her head. "Not yet." "When?" She looked at the screens. "At the death. At the desperation. When they understand," she said quietly. "When they truly understand what they lost." Her assistant frowned. "And if they never understand?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Then we stay here. We rebuild. We take care of our own." She paused. "But they will understand. They have no choice." On the screens, the council continued to argue. The plague continued to spread. And humanity continued to wait. The plague no longer belonged to the KRYLL alone. It had spread like fire through dry grass. First to the Vorthan worlds bordering KRYLL space. Then to the Xylos trade stations. Then to a dozen other species who had trade routes or refugee ships or simply bad luck. Now everyone was dying. The council met every day now. Sometimes twice a day. But nothing got done. A Vorthan counselor stood, his voice shaking with anger and fear. "Our hospitals are overflowing. Our doctors are sick. Our people are dying in the streets. Where is the help we were promised? A KRYLL counselor shouted back. Promised by whom? You did nothing when we begged for help. You argued about paperwork while our colonies burned. We did not know it would spread. We thought we were safe. No one is safe. Look at your own worlds. Look at what your delay has caused. A Xylos counselor tried to intervene. Fighting will not save anyone. We need to coordinate. We need to organize. Coordinate how? Another demanded. Every time we try to agree on something, we argue for hours. Nothing gets decided. Nothing gets done. The Xylos counselor looked around the room. For a moment, he seemed lost. Before the humans would help us, they would listen to both sides. They would find common ground. They would suggest solutions everyone could accept. Silence. A small voice spoke. It was a junior representative from a minor species, one who rarely spoke. Where are the humans? Everyone looked around. The human seats were empty. Had been empty for weeks. Months, perhaps. A Vorthan counselor called out. Has anyone seen a human representative lately? At any meeting? No one answered. A Xylos leader checked his data pad. I am looking at records now. The last human attendance at a council session was 4 months ago. 4 months. And the last human ship reported in KRYLL space was 7 weeks ago. The room went very quiet. A KRYLL counselor spoke slowly. They are gone. They just left. Why would they leave? The question hung in the air. Then the Vorthan counselor who had shouted earlier spoke again. His voice was different now. Smaller. We took them for granted, he said. We dismissed their requests. We delayed their aid. We told them they would manage because they always did. He looked around the room. We did this. We drove them away. Another counselor shook his head. They cannot just leave. They have responsibilities. Obligations. The galaxy needs them. A bitter laugh came from somewhere. And what did the galaxy give them in return? Respect? Gratitude? Partnership? No one answered. The meeting dissolved into chaos again after that. But something had changed. Beneath the arguments and accusations, a new feeling had taken root. Fear. Not of the plague. Not of the collapsing economies. Fear of something deeper. They had driven away the one species that held everything together. And now they were facing the consequences alone. A message was drafted. Sent to Earth. Urgent. Desperate. To the human government. The Galactic Council requests your immediate assistance. The plague has spread beyond control. Multiple species are collapsing. We cannot coordinate relief efforts without you. Please. We need your help. We need you. The message was sent. Then they waited. On Earth, Sarah Chen received the message. She read it quietly. Then she read it again. Her assistant stood nearby. Ambassador, what should we tell them? Sarah set the message down. Tell them we received their request. And nothing. Not yet. Her assistant frowned. They are desperate. People are dying. Sarah nodded slowly. I know. I have been watching. Every day. Every death. Then why wait? Sarah looked out the window at the peaceful Earth. At the people living normal lives. At the children playing in the sun. Because they need to understand, she said quietly. Not just that they need us, but why they need us. What we gave them. What they took for granted. She turned back to the screen. A few more days. Let them sit with the fear. Let them really feel what it means to be alone. Her assistant nodded slowly. And then? Sarah smiled slightly. And then we remind them who we are. Who we have always been. Not because they deserve it. Because that is who we are. She looked at the message again. Tell them we are considering their request. Tell them we will respond soon. The assistant left. Sarah sat alone, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was burning. And soon, humans would return to help put out the fire. But things would be different this time. 5 days passed. 5 days of chaos. 5 days of death. 5 days of the council meeting and arguing and accomplishing nothing. The plague spread faster than anyone could track. Whole systems went silent. Trade completely stopped. Economies that had stood for thousands of years crumbled in weeks. The council chamber was filled with desperate faces. Representatives shouted over each other. No one listened. No one agreed. No one knew what to do. Then the doors opened. Everyone turned. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked in. She wore a simple dark suit. No medals. No decorations. Just a human woman walking into a room full of desperate aliens. Behind her, 2 human aides followed. They stopped at the door and waited. The room fell completely silent. Sarah walked to the center of the chamber. She looked around at the counselors. At the KRYLL who had dismissed her. At the Vorthans who had delayed aid. At the Xylos who had argued about paperwork while millions died. She did not speak at first. She simply looked at them. Finally, a KRYLL counselor broke the silence. His voice was hoarse. Broken. Ambassador. Please. We need you. Sarah nodded slowly. I know. Another counselor spoke. A Vorthan this time. Where have you been? Why did you leave us? Sarah met his eyes. You told us we were not needed. You dismissed our requests. You delayed our aid. You took us for granted. She paused. We gave you what you wanted. We left. The Vorthan looked down. We did not know. We did not understand. No, Sarah agreed. You did not. She walked to the center of the room and turned to face them all. You thought you did not need us. You were wrong. Silence. A Xylos counselor spoke quietly. We know. We are sorry. Please. Help us. Sarah looked at him. At the desperation in his multiple eyes. At the fear that filled the room. We will help, she said. Relief washed across faces. Not because you deserve it, Sarah continued. Because it is who we are. Because helping is what humans do. Because we cannot watch millions die, even if they brought it on themselves. She held up a data pad. But things will be different now. She began to read. First, humans will no longer be helpers. We will be partners. Equal in every decision, every vote, every action. The counselors nodded. Second, every species will contribute to relief efforts based on their capacity. No more humans doing everything while others watch. More nods. Third, respect. Real respect. Not polite words while ignoring our needs. When we ask for help, you will listen. When we say we are stretched thin, you will believe us. A KRYLL counselor spoke. We agree. We agree to everything. Sarah looked at him. You agree now. But words are easy. We need action. We need change. Real change. She lowered the data pad. The human fleet is waiting at the edge of this system. Medical ships. Supply ships. Engineering ships. Enough to turn the tide. She looked around the room. Tell me now. Do you accept our terms? Do you truly understand what you lost? And what you are being given back? One by one, the counselors stood. We accept. We understand. Thank you. Sarah nodded slowly. Then let us begin. The human fleet arrived within hours. Ships spread across the galaxy, carrying medicine and doctors and hope. Engineers landed on plague worlds and built hospitals. Coordinators organized relief efforts with quiet efficiency. The death rate slowed, then stopped, then reversed. Weeks passed. Months. Slowly, the galaxy began to heal. But something had changed. Something deeper than medicine or supplies. Council meetings were different now. When humans spoke, others listened. When humans asked for help, others provided. When humans said they were stretched thin, others believed. Respect. Real respect. One evening, months later, Sarah stood on a balcony overlooking the galactic city. A KRYLL counselor approached her. The same one who had dismissed her so long ago. Ambassador, he said quietly. I never apologized. Not really. Sarah looked at him. I was wrong, he continued. We were all wrong. We took you for granted. We dismissed your warnings. We thought you would always be there, no matter how we treated you. He bowed his head. I am sorry. For myself. For my people. For everything. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. I accept your apology. He looked up. How can you be so forgiving? She smiled slightly. Because holding anger would make me like you. And I do not want to be like you. He stared at her. She continued. We help because it is who we are. Not because we expect gratitude. Not because we want power. Because helping is what makes us human. She looked out at the stars. You forgot that about us. You saw our help and thought it meant we were weak. You were wrong. It meant we were strong. He nodded slowly. I understand now. Good. She turned to him. Then remember. Remember what it was like when we were gone. Remember the fear. The chaos. The death. I will never forget. Neither will we. She walked away, leaving him alone on the balcony. Behind her, the galaxy continued to heal.